Hey, good evening. It's Jason here at Fraser Valley Rose Farm. Well, I came home from work today and I found that my bare root roses have arrived. This is very exciting for me, trust me. I love adding roses to my collection. I've got them soaking in a bucket of water here, prepared for my next step. I want to show you what I do with roses when I receive them in the fall. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to put them directly in the ground. I'm actually going to pot them as an intermediate step. But first I wanted to show you who I ordered them from and why I ordered them in the fall in the first place.
I won't keep you too long in screen capture mode here, but I just wanted to show you that your options for ordering bare root may differ quite a lot from mine. If you're in the USA, which many of my viewers are, you have a lot of different options for purchasing bare root roses in spring and in fall. If I just change the word up here to Canada, suddenly I have a lot fewer options. And for the Canadian bare root suppliers who ship within Canada, there's Palatine there's Hortico a little further down the list, and no offense to them, but they have reduced their rose selection quite a lot over the past few years. Cornhill is still quite good. They specialize in cold hardy roses. And then after that, David Austin Roses is in the States, but they will ship to Canada. Everybody else is a no-go. So I really don't have that many options. And so if I'm trying to increase my assortment for my roses here, the ones that I can propagate from, I either have to do so by trading with other gardeners, or I can look at what's in other people's assortments and try to order what I need for my selection. And so that's what I'm going to do this year with Palatine. I want to show you one thing or a couple of things about them. So if you go to the About Us section, one thing that I think is interesting to note is that they bud all of their roses on Multiflora or Laxa seedling rootstock. So that's interesting to know. And the other thing that I looked up before I made my order is obviously they have their order minimum listed here, but that they also serve their customers first come, first serve, and will not take pre-orders for the following rose season. Obviously they do their harvest in the fall and get ready their roses to throw them into the cooler for the winter. And so when that happens, they do fall orders followed by spring orders for shipping bare root roses. And so if I want the best assortment to add to my supply of roses here at the farm, the fall order works better for me. And one of the reasons I will choose to do the fall rather than wait until the spring is that my spring breaks a lot earlier than theirs does. So they're talking about taking orders all the way up until March, and I don't know exactly when they would be shipping them, but by that time in February my spring has already broken here, and I would expect if I could get them into the pot in the fall here and then start, yeah, there you go, their springs will be shipped from March 4th to April 29th, so I'll have had an extra month of growth on mine just by having them in the pots already this fall.
Alright, I've taken this bundle out of water now. And the reason I had it soaking in water was just to rehydrate the roots. These have been in a box for about a week. But when I did take it out of the box, it actually looked fairly good. So I only gave it a soak for about a couple hours, but not a bad idea to rehydrate your roses after they've been traveling to you in the post. They've got 5 roses all bundled together here quite tightly. And there they go. Okay, so some of what I want to show you here, actually fairly clean roots, nice established roots here. If you're accustomed to seeing bare root roses from the States, the size of this may not impress you a whole lot, these canes here. I'm not disappointed at all. These are grown in the Canadian climate, which is not like California or Arizona where they get those big, long, hot summers. This one here is a good hardy rose, and this top growth is fine for me. But what I wanted to show you really quickly here, I think it's quite interesting, is that this gives you a really good view of the grafting process that they did here. So the first thing they did is probably 3 years ago, they planted into the ground a seedling of multiflora rose, and it grew small in the base and the top. And then the following year, after it had sized up, they took there, you got to imagine the stem of the original rose here. They took and they grafted in a bud of the top stalk. So the rootstock, multiflora, exists both as the base and at that point as the rose on top. They've grafted on the scion, which is the rose that you wanted to buy, and then the following year, so let's call that year 3 probably, I don't know their specific schedule, what they did is they chopped off the head of the multiflora rootstock and just left the top stalk of the grafted rose and grew it for another year. So probably, unless I've miscalculated somewhere about their production schedule, this thing here is about a 3-year-old rose. The bottom end here, all from the multiflora seedling, and the top stalk here from the grafted rose. And in this case, what rose is it? It's Jacques Cartier. And Jacques Cartier is a Portland rose that I did not have in my collection. I'm very fond of the Portlands. This one here, oh, there's a big beefy one, eh? And again, you can see how chunky the rootstock here was. And the top of this is Kazanlik. And Kazanlik is the rose where in Bulgaria, when they're growing roses for perfume, they may grow perfume elsewhere, talking about the attar of roses or the rose perfume. This one here is the rose that they use for that. I've had some requests for that rose, so I'm going to grow that now. Oh, it looks like I missed some of the packing material here. So 3 more roses here. This one here is Variegata di Bologna. I probably pronounced that a little bit wrong, and you know, I just ordered it because it had Bologna in the name, but no, actually, it's a variegated old garden rose. This one here is Spectabilis. I'll see if I can attach a picture of that one here. It's I found it to be quite interesting and neat looking. And the final one here is Rosa alba sauvulens. So all 5 are roses that I have not grown myself, and I'm adding them to my collection. So this is what they look like unpacked, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw it into a pot. I thought I might give a quick explanation as to why I'm not just planting these straight in the ground in the garden. I ordered these in September, and I knew that they would probably be arriving here in mid-November. Right at the time that I ordered it, I kind of knew weather is way too unpredictable in my climate to be planting roses in the ground in mid to late November. So if you were buying roses for California or for Oregon or some very more temperate climate, you might consider getting your bare root roses in the fall and planting them right in the ground. In my case, I'm going to treat them just like I treat my overwinter roses in the greenhouse. I'm going to put them into some soil in a pot and let them rest over the course of the winter. They're going to get some cold temperatures. That's fine. These are hardy. I think that at the Supplier's place, what they would probably do is just put them into a humidity controlled cooler and just leave them until spring. I'll be putting them into some soil. I won't be fertilizing. And what I'm hoping then is they'll come at my schedule, usually mid-February or so. The temperatures in the greenhouse start coming up to the point where I get new growth, and these ones will jump right into action, and then I'll have material to cut from relatively early in the season. I won't spend too much time on this part here talking about the potting. I'm sure you've done this before, but what I did is I just put together a quick mix of potting soil, and the only thing really important to know about that is just not to have fertilizer in it, or not too much anyway. The rose doesn't need fertilizer until it begins growing in the spring. And if you put too much fertilizer in, you might tend to burn the roots. Okay, looking at that there, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fit this into the pot. And you can, if you need to, trim some of these roots to get it to fit into the pot. I try not to. You see, the roots are where most of the energy is stored for next year's early growth. I'm just going to center it like that, try to fit the roots in, and then go ahead and pack in the potting soil around it. Don't know quite how to describe how firmly to pack it, except to say not too loosely and not crazy firm. And this would probably about do it. Let's just pack it down like this. Usually give it a little tap when I'm done. Settle it all down. And that is potted for next year. I am going to go ahead and hurry up and do the rest of these now, because technically I'm not allowed to have soil in the house. So thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions, please leave them below the video.